The first blurb that you can kind of see in your classwork, right, it's kind of highlighted or boxed in. Our angles are generally measured within degrees to the nearest tenth, right? So if we're going to do degrees and just degrees only, we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. But degrees are like hours on a clock, which just means they consist of minutes and seconds. And 1 degree contains 60 minutes, and 1 minute contains 60 seconds. So it really is just like time. I'm going to minimize this. But it works the same way. So there is a way to pull out the minutes and seconds on your calculator, and that's what we're going to do. So what you guys need to know, is this the same? Okay, yeah. So this is kind of the same thing, but so 29 degrees and 60 minutes is the same thing as 30 degrees, right? Same thing as 4:59 and 60 seconds is the same thing as 5 o'clock. It's the same way. So 29 degrees, 59 minutes, and 60 seconds is 30 degrees, right? The 60 seconds would bring this 59 minutes up to 60 minutes. The 60 minutes would bring this degree up to 30 degrees even, right? So these are the same thing. Obviously, this is the cleanest way to say it, but these are equivalent. Now, so take out your graphing calculators. If you don't have them out, pause the video, take them all out. But I'm going to go through some instructions on here. So here we have our TI-83 plus. Should be pretty much the same based on whatever calculator you have. So we can use degrees and minutes on our calculator instead of decimals for degree measures. So still degrees, but we can basically convert the decimals into minutes and even seconds. Now, for the most part, we're going to be rounding our answers to the nearest minute. When in doubt, do to the nearest minute. You don't have to worry too much about seconds, but your calculator is going to spit out seconds, so it's almost like rounding up or down. You have to round up or down based on how many seconds. So if you're over 30 seconds, if that last tick mark is 30 seconds, you would round the minute up, right? If it's below 30, you would round the minute down, just like you would round up if it's 0.5 or above, or you'd round down if it was below 0.5. So you want to get comfortable with this button right here. It's the second apps, right? So we're going to hit second and then apps, and it's this angle button what it creates. So from that, you're going to basically be dealing with the first, second, and fourth command there. So the first one is a degree, which means you can actually input the degrees there. The second one is a minute, which just is one tick mark, looks like an apostrophe. The fourth one down is called DMS. We'll get to that one in a second, but it's called degrees, minutes, seconds. It will automatically convert whatever decimal you have to degrees, minutes, and seconds. So what you want to do is, before we start, make sure that your mode right here is in degrees. We're not going to be working with radians. We could also measure angles in radians, so we can do degrees with decimals, we can do degrees, minutes, and seconds, or radians, but we won't be doing that today. So this one is right in your notes, so definitely feel free to go through your notes more. The notes are very good, so if you get lost at any point, go through the notes. This is kind of a paraphrasing all the notes and putting it into a couple slides. So you have sine of 36 degrees, 14 minutes. Say I wanted to find, right, the decimals. We usually go 4 decimals long. There's the answer there. But say I wanted to find that decimal of sine of 36 degrees, 14 minutes. So step 1, make sure you're in degree mode, which I just said. Step 2, type in the trig function. We're going to type in sine, which is right below that APPS button, right below the angle button. So we're going to have sine, and we're going to do 36, and then after you hit 36, don't start typing in the 1-4. You're going to hit 36, go back to your calculator, second apps, and then you're going to type in the first one, which is degrees, so hit 36 and then degree button, and then you're going to type in, you don't need a comma or anything, you're going to do 36 degree, and then 1-4 minutes. So after you type the 4 in, go back second angle, and then you're going to hit the second one down, which is minutes, right? So the 1 tick mark just means minutes. 2 tick marks is seconds. We weren't given seconds, so you don't need to convert it. But when you do that, hit enter, you should get a number of 0.5911. So that's the first type of problem you might see. Another type of problem you might see is find the angle whose sine is 0.3223. So this is our inverse function again. Remember, sine with a negative 1 as an exponent does not mean 1 over sine. It's an inverse, just like f inverse x. So we're going to solve for the inverse. Right? We've done this before. So we have theta equals, or our angle equals, sine, inverse sine of 0.3223. And when you do that on your calculator, you should get 18.802. That's your angle measure, right? So you have your angle measure, right? This is basically the ratio. And here's your angle measure. So we do the inverse that way. Normally we have the angle measure and you can find the ratio that way. But we're working backwards here, so we're doing an inverse. Now, once we have this as an answer, it's a good idea to keep it as an answer and don't cut it off as a decimal. If you cut it off, it's going to affect your answer in degrees, minutes, and especially seconds. So you want to keep it as an answer. So once you have this up on your calculator, 18.802, you just hit DMS. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So don't retype anything. Just keep that up on your calculator. And what you want to do right from there, once you have that answer in there, you're going to go back to your calculator. You're going to hit second APPS to get to angle. The fourth one down is DMS, stands for degrees, minutes, seconds. Just hit that, and what your calculator will do is turn your answer into DMS. So it'll say answer, probably have a little arrow on there for most of our calculators. DMS, just hit enter, and boom, you get 18 minutes, 18 degrees, 48 minutes. It will also give you seconds. Again, if it's 30 seconds or over, round the minute up. If it's below 30 seconds, just keep the minute where it is and you round down. So we're going to do to the nearest minute. So that's kind of how it works. Again, if you need a second explanation of that, just rewind it, and then hopefully it'll make more sense. So a multi-step problem. I think this is the first multi-step problem on the fourth page. So if you want to take a second, you can flip to the fourth page. And here's one of your answers for you already, right? A lot of problems on this, but it's good to get familiar with this. More problems isn't a bad thing. So a multi-step problem is give the sine of the angle whose cosine is 0.4560. So the first thing you're thinking is, well, what's the angle, right? You have to know the angle if you're going to find the sine of it. So the angle is going to be, we're going to do cosine theta equals 0.4560. So what you need to do is the inverse cosine. I didn't show that step. We want to get comfortable doing that. I'm going to skip it on this. But do inverse cosine both sides. So we're going to have theta, inverse cosine this side. So we're going to have theta equals the inverse. We're going to have a 0.4560. It's going to create an angle measure that's 62.87. I use ... just to mean on and on and on. So what you want to do is hit sine and then answer. So basically hit your sine button. If you hit second, like on your calculator, if you hit second, and then the negative sign, that will just take whatever it was your last answer and put it in for a value. So if you hit sine and then second answer, it's going to take the sine of whatever you had in the last answer. So in this problem, we wanted to do, right, we had points, or we had 62 point yada, 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 yada. Right, we're going to hit sine and then second enter to make sure we take the sine of that exact answer. And basically when you do it that way, you get the sine and you get that ratio measure, or you get the measure, you get 0.8900 on your calculator, right? That's the sine of 62.87 degrees. Now you don't ever have to convert this to degrees, minutes, second, because the answer is looking for that 4 decimal, basically that 4 decimal type of answer. You could create it you could hit the DMS button here, but it doesn't do you any good. It's only when the question wants you to put it in degrees, minutes, seconds that you want to do that. So that's it for the slides. I want you guys to do the rest. That gives you everything you need to know how to do that, that classwork. So it's a classwork homework activity.